lakh crore rupees worth of Waqf property in Karnataka is alleged to have been encroached or sold illegally. Those who are in charge of the Waqf properties are given such unbridled powers that they are misusing those powers for their own pecuniary benefit. What the original Waqf was made for, which has resulted in tremendous corruption and encroachment of Waqf properties.
I ask you this, what is the biggest misconception people have about power and authority?
Muslims खतरे में पड़ेंगे, सबको देश से बाहर कर देंगे ये लोग. This was the kind of narrative that was created. What has happened in the last 12 years? The minorities are more safer in this country the last 10-12 years. Certain countries became rich because they had political stability and created good institutions that created wealth. In one line, the message of the book is fix your politics to fix your economics.
I don't know what that means. The last name means the sun. Of course, I love your city, and I've had the privilege of interviewing someone from your state, Yaduvir Wadia, who I mentioned 4 times since we met. I have never been inside the parliament. I've only seen Lok Sabha TV, and I've seen those edits with the, the red eye memes of some parliamentarian saying something interesting. What is it like in the parliament? Is it very intense? Is it fiery? Are people intimidating? Are there consequences to being perhaps a little lazy with your tongue? What's your experience being in the parliament?
Well, Vinamra, thank you so much for having me here on your show. The parliament, it's been about this is my second term, and I have gone to the parliament inside the house so many times by now. But the feeling of a sense of an overwhelming sense of responsibility, a sense of like how awesome this place is, and such big decisions happen here that change and impact the lives of millions. So that sense of an overwhelming feeling, that is something that defines each time you enter the parliament. People are very kind across party lines, I must say. Especially for young members like us, people across party lines are very encouraging. They always are very cordial to you. They actually, go out of their way to mentor you on many issues. So this is something that is phenomenal about the.
But on the other side, you've got clips circulating where parliamentarians, mostly when you see ruckus in the parliament, you see the thumping of the desks, and you see loud shouts, and you see parliaments regularly being adjourned because of matters. So it seems like, sure, big decisions are taken there, and sure, we see the highlights, but there's a lot of chaos, and there's a lot of noise and disruption in the parliament as well.
Well, in any democracy that is like ours, which is vibrant, which is a living democracy, which is not a democracy just in name, parliaments and such forums are by its very definition chaotic because it's a vibrant democracy. But, we would always not want the kind of disruptions that is happening. We would want more debates, more discussions in the place of disruptions. But I think the parliament, especially in the last 10 years, has been an extremely effective body. If you look at the Lok Sabha website to look at the productivity numbers, in most of the parliament sessions in the last decade, the productivity has been over 100%. That means the government's business has been completed, and we have done more than what was, stipulated to be done in that session. So I think the parliament is a very effective, the most effective body where people speak, the voices of the people is heard, aspirations of the people is given a channel to. The most important decision makers of the country sit there, they deliberate. And if you look at the composition of the parliament itself, Vinamra, there is a beauty in the representation of everything that the country represents. You have Maharajas and Maharanis there, who literally are heirs to, the erstwhile princely kingdoms. You have people who have declared, 2 lakh or 5 lakh or 10 lakh rupees as their total assets. People coming from such economic backgrounds, social backgrounds are also there in the parliament. There are people who are highly educated with multiple degrees, Ivy League universities. And then there are people who have had no sense of formal education, who also are elected in the parliament and perform effectively their roles as people's representatives. There are monks who are clad in saffron. There are mullahs, who are in the parliament. Then there are people from the Communist Party, DMK, who are atheists. So the parliament, in every sense, is a wonderful body where it's a amalgamation, a mosaic of all of these different interests, ideas, identities, groups, issues. It's phenomenal. And look at our immediate neighborhood, right? Look at Pakistan, look at Bangladesh, look at China, look at Sri Lanka, look at Myanmar. We are the only living, vibrant democracy in our immediate neighborhood. It's a huge success of our parliament and the parliamentary democracy.
When you stand up and speak in the Lok Sabha, as someone who love to be on stage and do debates, and now with this podcasting medium, I can only imagine the high and the power and the ecstasy one must feel when their voice is heard and everyone thumps like this for you. And that perhaps just like a stand-up comedian or someone who, perhaps is a performer, rouses you to speak even more fervently. Have you been roused to states of pure passion, or, where it's just like the speaking takes over and you love the sound of your own voice and you get all of this audience to sing along with you or perhaps support you? What I'm trying to ask is it the zenith for someone who's trying to be a speaker?
I think so. And most importantly, it is not just because the forum is so august. It's also because the nation is watching you. And the impact of what you speak there is multifold. And it's the very same body where once an Ambedkar student spoke. It's the very same body where Jawaharlal Nehru or a Sardar Patel, a K. Munshi, a Krishnamachari, these were the stalwarts who actually made the constitution. These were the people who spoke. And if you read or listen to the speeches that Shama Prasad Mukherjee had made, whether it was about Kashmir, whether about India's industrialization, such monumental decisions were taken in that August Hall. So, there's a overwhelming sense of history that you are reminded of when you speak. And when you're speaking, you see the country's prime minister sitting, you see the country's home minister, listening to you. So I think in that sense, it's a very, I would, for lack of a better word, it's a very overwhelming feeling each time you stand there and speak. And when you come back from your constituency, during the parliament session, typically all MPs go back on the weekend to their constituencies. Correct. And then we are back on Monday.
Yeah, that's why flight rates are through the roof on the weekends.
So when you come back here on the Monday and you have spent 2 days in your constituency and you are meeting the common people, the most vulnerable in the society, and then when you come back to parliament, and then you realize that you are actually here to be their voice and speak for them, then I think you just realize how much more important your role is for those who have actually elected you to come here and do this job. So I think that is, for me, more than a bigger high than, people thumping the desks there and the very joy of oration.
Many political insiders say in interviews, I think I last heard Kangana Ranaut say that all politicians are friends, and this othering or nemesising or making someone else a nemesis is merely a front to keep people entertained and to, basically push policy. Is that accurate? Is that true that actually, despite having stark ideological differences, party members across the aisle are absolutely friends?
One second. So, while in many cases, people across party lines, across ideological barriers, do maintain personal friendships and are cordial with each other in the least sense. It is wrong to say that it is a show that is put up. The opposition on a lot of issues is very serious. It's a very fierce opposition. So if we are not agreeing on a particular issue, it is not because it is a personal disagreement that we have with each other. It is an issue-based disagreement that we have with a particular party or a person. And I think all political parties, and at least most of the political leaders, stick to their convictions. So while it is encouraged to have good, cordial, personal relationships across the aisle, it would be very wrong to say that the opposition that is, made to a particular issue is a show that is put up. That I wouldn't agree.
Talking about opposition and issues, I mean, the Waqf Amendment Bill is a hot topic. You're one of the members actually tabling that bill in the parliament right now. And I was trying to look up what the original Waqf Act was. And I put it through the wonderful AI software known as Perplexity AI to figure out what it was. And it was roughly designed to better manage the properties of the Waqf in a line, if I could say that. Now, your side argues that this actually led to overreach and you want to amend that. And in September 2024, the Waqf board claimed roughly 200 properties in Delhi alone. Right now, one could ask you, if you want to table a bill, you could do something around healthcare, perhaps more jobs, perhaps something that opens up education. Why have a bill that is so inherently communal in nature?
Well, I think if we are trying to address the problem of the Waqf, it doesn't mean we are not addressing the problem of health and education. The government has already brought the new education policy, which was necessitated because for almost 4 decades, the country's previous governments did not refresh or revise the country's education policy. So for almost after 43 years, the Modi government came up with a new National Education Policy 2020. Insofar as health is concerned, we have built more medical colleges in the last 10 years than what was built in the last 70 years. And we have brought the new health policy. So all of these have been addressed. So what actually, happens is, especially in these kind of matters, this is called, shifting the goalpost. If I'm speaking of the Waqf or I'm speaking of some other issue, then, you will say, what about the potholes in the constituency?
No, I'm not talking about water.
No, I'm saying that the reason why the Waqf bill was important, the reforms for the Waqf bill is important, is twofold. One, after the railways and the defense, the Waqf board has control over the largest number of land in the country. Close to 39 lakh acres across the country, which is a huge amount of land.
So land control or land claimed?
Control. And the two problems that are there with the existing act is, those who are in control of the property, they are misusing it for objectives other than what the original Waqf was made for, which has resulted in tremendous corruption and encroachment of Waqf properties. So the act itself inherently is opaque, and those who are in charge of the Waqf properties are given such unbridled powers that they are misusing those powers for their own pecuniary benefit. So in one sense, the Waqf Act is not even protecting the Waqf properties. Second, the Act is also draconian in many ways, so much so that the Waqf boards, in multiple provisions of the Act, is given powers to claim any land that it believes to be Waqf property And the Waqf board can cause issuance of a gazette notification to the effect that that particular property over which it claims its right, it can cause issuance of a gazette notification by the state revenue authorities. And upon such issuance of gazette notification, the revenue authorities will have to mandatorily change your mutation land revenue records, and your land becomes practically dead, redundant.
How do they substantiate this belief? If I'm a member of one Waqf, how do I think about, say, a property 3 kilometers away and then substantiate this is Waqf land?
So there are two concepts in the Waqf Act. One is called a Waqf by user. Supposedly a particular piece of land is being used or has been used as a Waqf property for any prayer or as a kabristan or objective of this kind. Then even without any documentation, by the sheer fact of usage, you can claim that particular property to be Waqf property. Coupled with this legal principle of Waqf by user, there is also this provision called Section 40 in the Waqf Act. Section 40 essentially does this. It gives the Waqf board the power to claim any property that it believes, this is the word that is there in the Act, that it believes to be Waqf property. It can conduct an inquiry, and upon its being satisfied, it can declare that particular property to be Waqf property.
Like some historical claim of an Islamic...
It need not even be historic. The Section 40 of Waqf Act does not have any such qualifications. All it says is that the Waqf board has powers to conduct an inquiry on any land or any property that it believes to be Waqf property.
But what's the nature of this inquiry?
I mean, the nature of the inquiry is to find out if, the property was Waqf property or not. And the Act does not go into the details of specifying what needs to be done.
Wow.
Okay. Not just this. Let me, because you have brought this issue up, let me take you through the other certain provisions of this. Now, there is a concept of limitation in all litigation that is in the country. So if you approach a court on a cause of action, there is a stipulated time before which you need to approach the court. You cannot go to the court on the basis of a prehistoric or a very old claim all of a sudden today. And even if you go to a court and there is a order that is made in your favor or against you, then there is again a certain stipulated period within which you have to approach the higher court in appeal. So this is called the period of limitation. And there is an act called the Limitation Act that governs this whole limitation on litigation. The objective behind this is that people should not go in litigation before courts based on claims that do not have, or cause of action that does not have, of recent vintage, to prevent frivolous litigation.
Sure.
But the Waqf Act deals with limitation in two ways. Now, if the Waqf board claims your property to be a Waqf property and issues your property in the list of the Waqf, then you have 1 year within which you can go and appeal. You can go before the Waqf tribunal within 1 year.
Oh, I have to appear before a tribunal of the Waqf.
Yeah, I will come to the tribunal.
As opposed to a
civil court, but I'll come to the tribunal part. I'm dealing with the limitation part now. So if the Waqf claims your property to be its own, then you can go against that order in appeal to the Waqf board's tribunal within 1 year. If you delay it more than 1 year, you cannot go. But for the Waqf board to claim any property as its own, there is no period of limitation. So when we went to Hyderabad, when we went to some instances in Kerala, in some instances in Bangalore, the contention of the Waqf board is that these properties were given to us by Aurangzeb. These properties were given to us by the Nawab. And what documentation do you have to prove that? No, we don't have. But is there no limitation because 300 years ago this claim was made? No. it doesn't apply because the limitation law does not apply on the Waqf.
Right.
So a farmer in Hyderabad made this very telling comment. He said, Aurangzeb may have died 350 years ago, but his ghost is still encroaching our lands. So this is with respect to the law of limitation. Now, come to the fact of the Waqf Tribunal. Now, suppose you and I have a litigation with respect to our property. Then we have to approach the civil court. Suppose you have a litigation with respect to a temple property. Say a temple claims your property to be the temple's property, or a church claims its property to be yours. Then you will have to go to the civil court to disprove its claims.
Sure, show my original.
And it's a secular civil court. But with respect to a Waqf claim, you cannot go before the civil court. You will have to go before its own court, the Waqf Tribunal.
And what's their mode of justice? How do they decide if you're...
No, there is a rules of procedure under the Waqf Act as to how it is done. But essentially, it is a tribunal under the Waqf Act. So, under Section 40, the Waqf Board has powers to conduct an inquiry and determine a particular land to be Waqf land or not. So, you are an inquirer in your own case. Then, if the person who has a problem with it, if they have to go to court, they have to go to court within 1 year before the Waqf Tribunal. And if the Waqf Tribunal gives a order, passes a order, then you cannot go in appeal on that against that order to either the High Court or the Supreme Court. You only have to go under the writ jurisdiction. So you are an inquirer, you are the jury, and you are also the executioner in the same case. And after you decide, after you pass an order and declare you to be an encroacher, under the Waqf Act, the Waqf Board under Section 54 also has the powers to remove the encroacher. So there is no other authority in India, or dare say anywhere in the world, which has these kind of draconian powers.
But two questions. One, I think many people don't know what a Waqf is. They do know about the act. They read it on the news section of Google. They certainly see it trending on Twitter. Second, can you not bypass the Waqf Board and talk about these injustices and take the case to Supreme Court against the Waqf? Well,
the job of the parliament is to legislate. So if the parliament in its wisdom feels that the particular legislation is deficient in certain aspects, then it is open in all means. It is the prerogative, the duty of the parliament to legislate it and bring about the changes.
But what is
so we don't have to go to the Supreme Court in this case. Waqf essentially is a dedication of a property made by a Muslim in the name of Allah for religious purposes. This is what is the meaning of Waqf. It is like an endowment, a donation that is made in the name of Allah, and this donation is in perpetuity. So if somebody makes a donation to Waqf, it is a permanent dedication in the name of the God. This is essentially what is a Waqf. You also have in your committee Asaduddin Owaisi, who has famously criticized this amendment, saying that it actually encroaches on the freedoms of Muslims. Since he's in a committee, have you not had conversations with him? Have you not had dialogue with him? Perhaps to reason with him about what makes sense to pass? No, of course we do. We do have open deliberations, discussions about the issues in the committee and outside of the committee as well. But unfortunately, Vinamra, in this country, when it comes to issues with respect to the Muslim community, there has been a very concerted attempt at blatantly lying through the teeth to the Muslim community and creating a sense of fear among them. Because without creating the sense of fear, you cannot create a vote bank. And I would hold the so-called secular leaders and the Muslim leaders responsible for this fear psychosis and this vote bank politics. Mr. Owaisi and the Congress party and the other secular leaders in the committee, they know that there is nothing in the proposed amendments that is against the Muslim community, but still they portray it that way. That's what they did even with the CAA. The CAA was essentially a legislation that spoke of granting citizenship to those refugees coming from the neighboring countries.
Sure.
It had nothing whatsoever dealing with taking away citizenship from anybody. But the whole narrative was that the CAA is going to come and it is going to take away the citizenship of the Muslims in the country. And months together, Shaheen Bagh protests were made. So essentially, this is the modus operandi of before in 2011, 12, 13, I still remember, especially 13, 14, 11, 12 years ago, the kind of misinformation campaign, the kind of fear psychosis campaign that was done all over the country, that if Modi ji becomes prime minister, all Muslims will be in danger. Muslims khatre mein padenge, sabko desh se bahar kar denge ye log. This was the kind of narrative that was created. What has happened in the last 12 years? Nothing. The minorities are more safer in this country the last 10, 12 years. So essentially, whether it is Mr. Owaisi or whether it is, the so-called secular parties, all of these Congress and CPM, all of these parties, they essentially know that there is nothing in the Waqf Amendment Bill that is against the Muslim community. They also know that the act as it stands today is draconian in nature. It is in fact not helping the Muslim community. If you come to Karnataka and talk to the Waqf board in Karnataka, or go to Maharashtra and talk to them, they will tell you that a large number of Waqf property is illegally encroached upon or illegally sold by the mutawallis, meaning those people who are trustees or in charge of the properties.
For their own personal gain?
For their personal gains. In fact, in Karnataka, about 10 years ago, the State Minorities Commission had come up with a report. And that report said that the Waqf properties in Karnataka have been sold or encroached upon by many leaders, mostly by the Congress party, and the amount, the total valuation was around 2 lakh crore rupees. 2 lakh crore rupees worth of Waqf property in Karnataka is alleged to have been encroached or sold illegally by many senior Congress leaders. An official report to this effect was made. But the so-called secular leaders do not speak about this.
What I was surprised by is that the Sufis actually support the new bill. I understand that they have a slightly less hardline stance when it comes to Islam. They have a more free interpretation of Islam. It says that the All India Sufi Sajjadanship Council.
The Sufis are in favor of the bill.
Yeah. There
are so many Muslim organizations across the country, so many of them, who have come before the JPC and have given representations in support of the amendment. They say that the act as it stands today is opaque, has no transparency, gives unbridled powers to the mutawallis to illegally.
Why is it so controversial in Parliament then? Why is it creating such uproar across social media?
I told you why. Because there is a section that benefits out of creating this fear psychosis. What this has essentially been the definition of secularism in India. If you look at how secular parties and secular, so-called secular, the self-proclaimed secular leaders have behaved, this is their SOP. You take any issue, they have blatantly lied to the Muslim community and they have tried to create a sense of fear among them and have then positioned themselves as the champions of them.
I'm sure you must have, I'm sure you must have studied how other places of worship are treated in the country. From what I know, Anand Ranganathan once told me that the Places of Worship Act in India is also quite draconian because temples largely come under state control then. Will the same effect be carried out onto the Waqf places? Sorry, what I'm trying to say is, it says here that some of the Waqf land or some of the Waqf places will also have government control as opposed to having independent Waqf member on it. The same way you had...
See, the issue with Waqf is completely different. than what it is with, say, control of temples. That's a completely different matter, and it needs to be dealt comprehensively, perhaps in another podcast or something. But what is actually happening with Waqf, the Waqf Act, is that on one hand, there is a lot of opaqueness, and it is not giving the right kind of management that Waqf properties need. This is one problem. On the other, it has given the Waqf board such draconian provisions that it is resulting in blatant encroachment of lands.
Yeah.
Now, in Karnataka, you may have been following the news the last few, couple of weeks. Just in one district of Bijapur, close to 20,000 acres of land is claimed, land owned by farmers, is claimed by Waqf board to be its own land. Now, do you have any documentation to prove that it is your land? No. 53 ASI properties, it's being claimed as Waqf properties. The district hospital is being claimed as Waqf property. The school, the government school where Sir M. Vishweshwaraya studied, that is being claimed as Waqf property. Karnataka's Vidhan Sauda is claimed as Waqf property. They have even claimed Parliament of India to be Waqf property. 200 acres in and around the parliament is being claimed as Waqf property. So this madness, that needs to be stopped. And I told you, all of this encroachments, all of these mad claims that are being made, these are made because the statute supports it.
Some of the solutions you provided for the amendment bill is the state government will nominate members rather than electing them from Muslim electoral colleges. At least 2 non-Muslim members must be included on each board. Representation from various Muslim sects, Shia, Sunni, Bora, Aga Khani is mandated. Why all of these provisions?
Well, the Muslim community is not a homogeneous community.
Sure.
Just
85%
like
are Pasmandas.
Just like how the Hindu community has various castes, etc., the Muslim community also has various different denominations and classes. All of them need to be heard.
But
all of them, in fact, the Sufi community, the Bohra community, all of them feel that they have been shortchanged. In fact, before the Joint Parliamentary Committee, the Bohra community was represented by Mr. Harish Salve. And they said that, please leave us out of the Waqf Act. We don't want to be coming under the ambit of the Waqf Act. We will be happy to, deal with our properties under the Bombay Trust Act, the Public Trust Act. They said, please do not bring us under the ambit of the Waqf Act at all. Leave us alone. So if the Sufi community says, the act as it stands today is not in their favor, if the Bohra community says we don't want anything to do with the Waqf Act, there must be some serious issues with this. Therefore, these serious issues are being addressed.
Understood. Earlier, you mentioned about how CAA and NRC was often wrongly narrativized as something that was going to take away citizenship from the country's existing Muslims and perhaps other minorities. One must, if they have to hazard a guess, they would probably think that if Congress's vote banks is primarily minorities, it would make sense for them to get Muslims from across the border, like Bangladesh, into the country. The same way, the Hindus in Bangladesh would benefit from being added to the population in India and contributing to the BJP's vote bank. Looking at it as a neutral observer, मैं तो बोल सकता हूँ कि दोनों ही vote bank politics कर रहे हैं फिर.
Vinamra, I think you are dealing with both issues in a very different manner. The issue of Hindu atrocities against the Hindu minorities in Bangladesh, in Afghanistan and Pakistan is not a figment of someone's imagination.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying we benefit from having more Hindus here, like the same
They
way.
are being forced to come here. They are being forced to come here. And just if you take the instance of Bangladesh, at the time of independence, the minority population was close to 30%. And today, by their own admission, the Bangladesh government says the minority population is somewhere close to 7%. What happened to the remaining? Is it not a civilizational duty of India to protect the Hindus, not just in these countries, but all over the world?
You could argue the same for the Muslims. I mean, for
the Hindus, you have no other country to go. Bangladesh and Pakistan was created on the basis of a religious identity.
Sure, that's true.
So they were created because they needed a Muslim nation. But that was not the case with Hindus. So if not Bharat, where will the Hindus go?
And there's been a lot of talk about this Hindi-Kannadiga divide about language. Here is my take. I would love yours because you represent Bangalore South. I think it makes sense for all migrants to a new state to at least try and learn the local customs, the customary slangs, perfunctory language to get by. I think that's the basics. But many people in the South argue that these Hindi speakers come from the North and try to take away our jobs and force us to speak Hindi. Instead, they should now speak Kannada, right? As someone who represents Bangalore South, what is your take on this sensitive language divide?
Well, I agree with what you said. People who come from a different part of the country, people who come from a different part of the world must definitely make an effort to learn the local customs, get more familiar with the local culture and the language, because language is such an important medium of transmission of culture.
Yeah, you said ever since you became Adhyakshji, you're also trying to learn some Hindi.
Because learning a language is a very important medium of communication, not just in terms of your work, but it's a transmission of culture that happens. So after I was made the national president of the party's youth wing, one of the first things that I did was to get a Hindi tutor, and I learned Hindi.
Yeah,
because it is so essential for me to communicate in my line of work.
How hard was it?
Not very hard. It took some time, but I made my share of mistakes. Even now, I do make some mistakes when it comes to the striling and pulling, because it's very different back in Kannada.
No, so what is it? Does Kannada have 3 striling, pulling, and napunsaling?
Yes, napunsaling. Yes.
Okay.
So that's the biggest. Gadi becomes striling, and then
right.
Striling, pulling. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, because when your colleagues or your party members were saying Adhyakshji, I couldn't understand who it was. Because I'm used to knowing about your name. So then I realized, of course, they call him Adhyakshji because in Hindi, that's what the president means. Yeah.
But coming back, I think at least I can speak this for the people of Karnataka, people of Bangalore. We are the most cosmopolitan of I would say all of the country, most non-judgmental, all accepting people.
Sure.
And this should not be seen as, like you can run roughshod around this community or this people. And this is not to say that people from different parts of the country are not welcome to the city. Bangalore has ambitions of becoming a truly world-class city, a global metropolis. It has all the potential to be that. So in the coming years, we would want people from all over the world, in different parts of the world, to come and settle in Bangalore. So in that sense, we are not chauvinistic or jingoistic when it comes to our language or religion or the regional identity. But at the same time, it cannot be at the cost of the local culture, the local language and customs. And Kannada is a very easy language to learn. So I think you very rightly put it. When people come and settle in a particular place and they are here for decades together. I have seen people who have stayed 15 years, 20 years in the city who have not learned a single line of Kannada. And I have on the other hand seen so many people who come from Karnataka, who come from Tamil Nadu, Telugu speaking states, come here in the north, in Delhi and other places, who pick up Hindi so easily.
Yeah, Vishu Basoya from your team was telling me a few words in Kannada. I said, you can speak the language? He's like, yeah. And I was very surprised. Yeah, that's very good. I'm going to ask you a little bit of a fun questions for a large chunk of our Gen Z audience who's been watching this. Do you watch memes? If yes, is there a meme about politics that's made you laugh recently?
Oh, yeah. I mean, social media is so ruthless. So, there are so many memes that are made about all politicians, including me. So I keep looking at them.
Can you laugh at yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's one quality everybody should have, especially people in public life should have the ability to laugh at yourself. In fact, on this very same issue, on this Kannada language issue, somebody had made a meme recently of making me like a Setu from, like Maharashtra, Rajasthan, when RCB had started its Hindi handle.
Right.
There's a huge social media uproar. So somebody said this Tejasvi is a Marwadi agent. So they had made this, meme with, giving me this Setu topi and all of that. So keep laughing.
There's a clip flying around saying you support RCB. I mean, I guess you have to because it's your city, but I mean, the team always loses. Why is it? What is it about RCB fans that they just like a losing team so much?
I don't know. It's a very strange relationship that we have. It's like in the beginning of the season, we keep rooting for it. We are just so passionate about it. And then we screw up somewhere and then we lose. But, there's this campaign in Kannada called Ee Sala Cup Namde, which means this time the cup is ours. So this has been going on from a decade now, but we have still not been able to get it. While our girls team actually won the cup. So they kind of compensated for what the men's team didn't do. But I still hope that, the RCB team will win. But I think that's the nature of people of Bangalore. You love them once, you gain their, trust, and then they'll go all out for you.
I've been helped by people in Bangalore in a way I can't probably profess to someone because I've been offered a combination. I've booked podcast studios for dirt cheap that I could do nowhere else in the country. I have entrepreneurs who own like $1 billion startup, invite me for lunch and spend 3 hours just chit-chatting. It's a very, very people-centric city, and it also has a strong immigrant culture, whether despite the fact that there are tons of people indigenously there. They seem to blend in very well.
Yes. No, I told you, we are the most cosmopolitan city in the country. That's our biggest strength. But unfortunately, sometimes the local people feel that that is kind of sometimes taken for granted by others, and they try to run roughshod about other culture. But that's a tussle that goes on in any big city.
So I'm not sure if your father or your grandfather was a 3-time MLA from Basavangudi. I could be wrong. Was it your father or your grandfather?
No, my uncle.
Your uncle, my bad.
Yes.
So you've clearly grown up around power. As someone who's been exposed to the horrible truths of real politics in the last year of interviewing and meeting many people from across the political aisle, I ask you this. What is the biggest misconception people have about power and authority?
Well, first of all, I want to set the record straight. Though my uncle is an MLA from, BJP and from Bangalore, my politics has nothing to do with his politics. So I have not grown around power the way, your sentence came across. But I would say this with respect to power. Either it can make you lose your mind, or it can give you a sense of responsibility and ownership for a lot of people who you are accountable to. It depends upon you. And if you fall in the first category of the ones who lose your mind because of power, then I don't think people will, at least in today's day and age, it is going to age well and people are going to take it very easily.
Have there been times when you overshot and sort of like got blinded by power?
No. Not even in.
How do you keep a stable head?
I think it's in my nature to be extremely aware of my responsibilities, my motivations, my convictions. And I think by my nature and the way my parents have raised me, I think I'm very grounded that way.
Who's causing mayhem in your constituency? What's the biggest problems that your constituency is facing, Bangalore South?
Bangalore's biggest issue is our lack of public infrastructure. Bangalore is notoriously known for our traffic jams because over the last 2-3 decades, the city's economic growth has fast outpaced our public infrastructure growth. So I think that has been the public enemy number one.
Or are you having difficulty getting funds from the Siddaramaiah government to maybe do something in your constituency? Or
No. I think it is not just about lack of funds. It is also about putting in structure, right institutions that will take care of the city. And I think this is a problem not just restricted to Bangalore, restricted to largely all of urban India.
yeah, I've seen this in Mumbai also. By the
Yes. So urban India needs a very serious rethink. Unfortunately, for almost about 70 years after independence, the country's government successively placed importance on rural areas and farmers and rural community, rural upliftment, etc. And unfortunately, the kind of support that our political capital that needed to be expended on our urban infrastructure, our urban areas was not done. But today, almost more number of Indians live in our urban centers than they live in rural areas. So our urban centers need a big rejig. We need better institutions at the urban level that is going to have the kind of financial strength, the political will, capabilities to actually deliver better governance. I think so. The biggest challenge as far as Bangalore is concerned is the traffic and the lack of public infrastructure to decongest the traffic in the city. And that's one issue that I have been constantly working on the last 5 years.
My state of Haryana is mired in caste politics in a way many would think is unbelievable, but my experience growing up has taught me otherwise. I don't know, do Bangaloreans vote on the basis of caste? Is that a predominant issue in your elections?
I don't think so. At least in Lok Sabha elections, I don't think it's a...
But on like a legislative level?
To some extent, yes, unfortunately. Yeah. But I would still say that in comparison to say Haryana or say Bihar, I think very, very less caste narratives in at least Bangalore, I would say. Maybe outside of Bangalore, in other parts of Karnataka, caste does play a predominant role. But insofar as Bangalore is concerned, I don't think it's the most important factor in an election.
Yeah, it comes down to issues eventually.
Issues and party lines and the local issues, I would still say it is that way, which is a good thing.
Yeah, there's younger people often want authenticity and self-improvement and honesty in their politicians and leaders. Is there something, a practice, a habit that you do that, like you said, keeps you grounded, keeps you steady? Because it is a pretty awesome achievement at 34 to be the head of the BJYM, right? To be called Adhyakshi in Delhi. Is there something you do to keep yourself grounded?
I remind myself of where I have started from. I started as a very, very normal karyakarta of this party. That's the beauty of this party. Just about 12, 14 years ago, I was the secretary of the youth wing of Bengaluru South district. I was then the state secretary. I was then the vice president. I was the general secretary in Karnataka. I was doing a lot of work. I was doing social media for the party. I was doing law for the party. So I've come up the organizational route through all of these activities. So it's not that I was parachuted one day. So I think because I've done this journey, I know what it means. And in fact, I had said this in one of our national executive meetings after I became the national president. A few years ago when I was working in the party's state unit as a Yuva Morcha Karyakarta, there was a lot of issues with my then state president, and I felt he was not giving me enough opportunities, etc. So I had gone to a senior and I had complained and said, this is what I'm facing, so please help me out. So he said, if you have so much of a problem working in the state unit, then why don't you work in the national team?
Sure.
So I told him that I would not have a problem working in the national team, but if the national president keeps calling me for meetings in Delhi, I may not be able to attend it because I cannot afford the flight tickets to Delhi. When this episode happened, I had no idea that one day I myself would be the national president of that organization. So once I became the national president of this youth wing, one of the first things that we did was to create a corpus fund in the organization to help all the national office bearers of the Yuva Morcha to take reimbursement for their flight tickets to come to Delhi.
That's why you've got domestic and international airports behind you?
Oh, no, I think this is for some election campaign to plan travel.
Oh, right.
This is
why
not for
I
this.
was so surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this would be for some campaign
Got it.
planning,
No, this is
travel
very-
for the campaign.
This is my first time, by the way, inside a party headquarters. I used to think they're very small, and I used to think they're very close to Lutyens, but this is massive. It looks like a very rich college campus with the red bricks front and whatnot. But the corridors are quite hallowed. Like, why is there less commotion here? Is everyone in the party busy elsewhere?
Well, it's a very disciplined
Okay.
office and a very well organized
मैं
party.
हंसी मजाक और ऐसे मस्ती बाहर no.
नहीं, वो सब चलता रहता है. युवा मोर्चा का बैठक नहीं चल रहा है, इसलिए थोड़ा बहुत सीरियस लग रहा है आपको. बट युवा मोर्चा का बैठक या युवा मोर्चा का कार्यक्रम जब भी चलेगा, बहुत हल्ला मल्ला होता रहता है.
Okay, what is it like to work with like these younger people who want to join the BJP, right? Like, I don't know what the Yuva Morcha does. Like, what do they do? Do they offer functionaries on the street? Do they offer help with campaigns?
Yes. There isn't anything, I mean, I would say Yuva Morcha does everything. I mean, in the party, we are at the forefront of the election campaign during time of elections. We are into a lot of seva organizations, activities, blood donation camp ho gaya, swachhta abhiyans ho gaya, helping kids with scholarships ho gaya. So there is a lot of, such seva activities that the Yuva Morcha does.
Oh.
Then there is actual political activities where we go to college campuses, university campuses, hostels, where we talk to students about national issues, education, political education karne ka kaam. So that is the whole thing. And then a large number of young leaders of the BJP come through the Yuva Morcha. So if you look at the party's today's leadership, most of the party's top leaders have come from the party's Yuva Morcha. Amit Shah ji was in Yuva Morcha, Rajnath Singh ji was in Yuva Morcha, Nadda ji was in Yuva Morcha, Anurag Singh Thakur ji came out of Yuva Morcha. So Shivraj Singh Chauhan was in Yuva Morcha. So if you look at the party's frontline leaders today, Dharmendra Pradhan ji, so many of them, all of them actually came through the Yuva Morcha route. So I think Yuva Morcha is more like a platform, a gymnasium, where young people are identified, they're groomed, they're given responsibilities and trained for bigger responsibilities for tomorrow. So there is like I said, there's a seva angle, there is a political angle, there is a organizational dimension. There is an election type, work when during elections, we are at the forefront organizing bike rallies, at the forefront of campaigns, social media, outreach. So while doing all of these activities, then you start networking within the organization, you start learning so many organizational skills within the organization, and then you slowly, without you knowing it yourself, you emerge as a voice of the party, as a leader in the party. That's the beauty of the Yuva Morcha.
I've heard that you ran the Ironman 70.6. Is that 70.6 kilometers?
70.3 miles.
70.3 miles. How did you find the time to do it? How did you find the fitness to do it? And what was that like as an MP? I've also heard you're the first MP in the world to do it.
Yeah.
Which means that every country that follows a parliamentary system which has an MP has not had any representative do it.
Yeah. So Ironman 70.3 is, 3 activities. It has a 1.9 kilometers of swimming, it has a 90 kilometers of cycling, and it has a 21.1 kilometers of running. So all of these has to be done within 8 hours, 30 minutes. So this is the Ironman event, Ironman race. So I started training for this about 4 months ago.
While doing all of this, while drinking chai, water.
I don't drink chai actually.
You're sitting around, because I know that, people who are in office sit around a lot.
Yes,
they have to sit a lot.
Yeah. So in my case, it was a lot of, it's a lot of travel. I travel for Yuva Morcha work. I travel for parliament. I travel for constituency work. और constituency में तो आपको शादी attend करना है, किसी का मुंडन में जाना है, गृह प्रवेश में जाना है. All of these.
You're eating all kinds of food, no control on the diet.
I try to be as disciplined as possible. But I'm a big sweet tooth and a hopeless foodie. So it's very hard, as it is for me to maintain very disciplined food. But about 4.5 months for the training, I was very mindful. Otherwise, you can't.
But how did you make this happen? Like what did you do actually? You were able to do this without feeling in the middle.
Well, one is, there's only one word. Even you can do it. Anybody can do it. If I could do it, anybody could do it. The only thing is consistency. So all you need is 1 hour every day. So if you put your mind that you will give 1 hour to 1.5 hours every day for training, you can do it.
So
the challenge was because I was here in Bangalore one day, I would be in Siliguri the next day, I would be in Patna the other day. This was the biggest challenge. Maintaining food, maintaining sleep, and maintaining nutrition for this.
Talk to me about the strangest training regimen where you found yourself in a weird gym at 3 a.m. or just to get that in.
Well, I would do this. If there was a meeting at say 11 in the party office, I would sometimes end up taking the 6 a.m. flight from Bangalore, land here at 8:30, go swimming from 9 to 10:15 in Talkotora. From swimming pool straight go to the party office or parliament and do the meeting, and then finish the event or meeting or whatever in the evening. Then go to Nehru Park, finish a 1 hour run, take the night flight, go back to Bangalore.
That's insane.
So this is what I have done around for 4 months. This was the kind of training. And then for my strength and conditioning, my coach would come online. So there have been times, I still remember, I think this was in Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh, I don't remember. There was a protest rally that would, Yuva Morcha was leading the protest. So I'd reached the previous night. The next day morning, I open the iPad, and then my trainer trains me for about 45-50 minutes as a strength and conditioning training. After that, I go to the, I take my running shoes. I run for 10 kilometers around the hotel, on the main roads, etc. Then come back, quickly shower, and then just next change into kurta pajama and then run for the protest.
But why did you want to do this? Like, what caused you to do this? Were you getting unhealthy?
No. I mean, it was. I just like to do these hard things. It just motivated me, and I wanted to actually give the message of Fit India to people. And to be very honest, personally, it was this line of Swami Vivekananda that was actually in my mind for a long time. I had read this about 10-12 years ago. It's his idea of how young people should be. Muscles of iron, nerves of steel, and a mind as sharp as a thunderbolt. He said these are the 3 qualities that he wants to see in young men. So since that line, I wanted to actually do something that will physically, challenge myself and be a big, a challenge for myself.
Sure.
So I think, and the Ironman is mostly a mental challenge than a physical challenge. So when you're in the fag end of your races and your leg is giving up and your, every sinew, every nerve is, paining in your body, that's when the actual challenge is. That's when you put your mind over everything and you tell your body, buddy, just do it. So it's more of that.
Your negative self-talk, I'm sure, must have gone into overdrive at certain points where you would really have hated yourself for picking it up in the first place.
Especially, when I had to do these really early morning flights to just come out of the airport, just straight, head to a swimming pool and get into the cold water and then swim and then get out, then do the meeting through the day.
Yeah.
So I think that regime was actually sometimes like, why did I even sign up? But I think that's what made me so happy and so fulfilling. And, I feel so happy having done this because it taught me so many lessons. One, the power of consistency. We underestimate the power of consistency. So you can bloody achieve anything if you're just consistent. Second, the power of deliberate action. So many times we actually give too much of importance to ये भाग्य में नहीं लिखा था, ये इसमें था, ये आपका कुंडली दिखाओ, ये दिखाओ, all of these things.
I'm seeing your fingers have no rings.
No, you will not find. So, but the power of deliberate action. If you mind to do something and if you make an effort, you can achieve it. nothing proves this truth than your physical exercise.
Tell me something, Tejasvi. How do politicians have so much energy? I've seen many people of my ilk, content creators, thake hue rehte hain, dukhi rehte hain. They're churning through the whole grind of doing this, right? One is, of course, power, and like glory is a great motivator, perhaps. And seeing the applause of an audience on a number on a screen is way different than perhaps being applauded by your national party for a great job. For me, I think of sitting as the new smoking. I always think of that. And I think of all of these old dudes, 40 plus, 50 plus, 60 plus, 70 plus. They're sitting around and they're still energetic. And they do meetings all day long and they drink 100 chais and they do something else at 3 a.m. How is it that all of these guys it is probably a study in high performance. Perhaps some of the politicians I know are far more high performing and higher energy than people who are supposedly energy coaches.
Well, one thing I must say, the job of a politician in India is the most difficult, is one of the hardest jobs in the world. People perhaps, who have not seen this from close, perhaps do not know. They think they must be whiling away, having a great time, enjoying, etc. But it's not that case. It's a very hard, very demanding job. I think there are two, places from where you get that energy. At least, I speaking for myself and after having seen from close so many political leaders the last so many years, one is a sense of conviction. That's where you get it. Political leaders are extremely driven people because of a very serious sense of conviction that they have. It may be to the people who have elected them. It may be to the ideology that they believe in, the party that they believe in. But they're all people driven on a mission.
Not some narcissism, not some quest for power that keeps them so driven.
I don't think so. I mean,
come on, there must be at least a handful who are like that.
I wouldn't deny that. And I would also not say that is also not a factor.
Sure.
But the primary factor is that there is a larger purpose than themselves. You cannot approach, what I'm trying to say is, these are not people who are approaching their job as a 9-to-5 job. It's not that अभी ठीक है भाई ये मैं जा रहा हूँ काम पे सुबह चाय पी के नाश्ता करके वापस चले जाऊंगा ऑफिस से. This is not the attitude. You cannot do politics with this attitude.
Yeah.
If you want to do a 9-to-5 kind of a work, and with that attitude you want to do politics, you can't survive for more than a week.
Have you seen people burn out?
Naturally,
थक गए, परेशान हो गए.
A lot of them. It's in the course of the job it happens. Yeah. I myself feel so many times that God, this is, I just need a break. But then, something else comes up and then that entices you, that gives you more energy. So I think that is first, the political leaders are animals of conviction. And from there you derive a lot of energy. Second, I think we also feed off energy from people. So like you said, when we meet people, and there's an energy that is transferred, and you go to a program and then there is there's an energy in that program. So I think political leaders also feed off that energy. I myself have seen, I would have taken 2 cities, 3 flights, reached constituency airport at say 9:30, 9:45 in the night, and I'll still have a wedding to attend of some karyakarta somewhere. And then there have been instances where in the car I have just cursed, why did we have to go to this at 11:45, almost close to 12 in the night. You're going to a shadi after having started the day at 6 in the morning. Itna thake hue hain. Then you go there and then you start talking to people, and then people are just so happy that you came. And then, you talk to them and they feel very happy that you came. Then you feel, when you see the smiles on their face, you feel, done boss, theek hai, this was worth the effort. And I think when you also get to actually see the results of your action, it also gives you a lot of satisfaction. For example, in my constituency, I was trying to get a metro line opened quickly. The green line that got opened in Bangalore quickly. So after a lot of effort, we got the line opened. The same day, I saw 50,000 people traveling in that line.
That's crazy.
Right?
As soon as it opened.
Yeah. So that kind of gives you huge satisfaction. So all that circus that I had done, traveling to Delhi, back and forth, talking to these authorities, coming here, you feel, boss, done. It was worth it.
I'm sure you must have figured out like flight hacks because my flatmate and I, we can sense when we live 20 minutes away from the Mumbai airport. So we can gun our destiny till the very last minute, to the point that how I got here and why I'm wearing this suit is actually, that's all I carried. And I've been here for the last 3-4 days because I had two choices. Either I get the cabin baggage, miss the check-in time, and cancel a second flight because I canceled the first one because I was too tired, too sleepless. Or I abandon the cabin baggage, just dump it all in a small bag, just one suit because I attend an event, one mic, and come here. So that's what I did. But I just got it when they were saying final call. I was the second last person to board the flight, and I ran across the airport. So as someone who takes so many flights, I mean, of course, I only ask those people who take tons of flights, how far can you gun it?
My one piece of advice is, whether it's in flight or whether it's in life,
Yeah.
keep your baggage as less as possible.
You travel with no baggage at all?
No, I do, but I'll always have just a small cabin bag.
Yeah, you never check in.
No.
No matter how many days you're in it for.
No, it's when I do overseas travel, of course, I check in
Sure.
the baggage. But within India, even if it is within India, most of my travels will be for not more than 2-3 days.
Yeah.
So it'll always be a cabin bag.
So you said you do stuff back to back to back to back, and there is no rest in the middle. And I find myself in this similar schedule, perhaps, where I'm not meeting so many people en masse, but I'm meeting tons of people one-on-one. I often think, yeah, where is a time where I can just spend 10 minutes silently? Because
Flight.
Yeah, that's where you zone out.
Yeah, but even there are people sometimes you're sitting next to you who start having a
But
conversation.
does it hamper your judgment? Because you're not one with yourself anymore. You're sort of acting externally all the time.
I have had this question to myself, because you don't get time for yourself, you're not, spending time in contemplation. I would be wrong if I say it does not affect. It does to an extent.
When you go back to Bangalore South and perhaps you go to your parents' house, do you turn off your phone and sleep for long on Sundays?
Actually, Sundays are the most difficult days for a politician.
Why is that?
Because most of the public events happen on a Sunday. So Saturdays, Sundays are the 2 days that I dread. And I actually look forward to a Monday.
Yeah.
Because Mondays are, a little light because it is just official engagements or some, events like
A few Zoom calls, a few local
or
meetings, 10
meetings,
kilometer radius.
But Saturdays, Sundays are crazy when you are in the constituency. You have Grah Pravesh to attend, you have a Mundan, you have a Shadi to attend in the evenings. Then you have all kinds of public programs. Then you will have these constituency engagements. Then you see public. Because on Sunday, people are free to come and see you. Otherwise, on the other days, they have their work. So my typically public appointments are on Sundays or Saturdays. So I go and sit in the office at say 9 o'clock, 9:30. Typically till 3:34, there are people. So I get to eat only after they all leave. 3:34. So, by the end of the day on a Sunday, your social battery is dead.
What do you want to do then? Watch some Netflix, just chill?
Just sleep.
Just sleep.
Just
Nothing else. Are you perpetually in a sleep deprivation?
When I was training for Ironman, yes, it was crazy. And my trainer was like, I don't know how we are doing this. On 4 hours sleep, on 5 hours sleep, 2 workouts in a day.
I get to do this all day long.
So, no, he was actually, telling me that this is madness. On 4.5, 5 hours, 5.5 hours sleep on, good days.
Yeah.
2 workouts, 2 flights in some day and all of this. But again, like I said, that's where we get the energy from.
When was the last time you just turned off your phone and slept on your stomach for a very long time?
I was in the last week, I was part of the delegation of MPs to UN General Assembly. I just came back 2 days ago. So yesterday evening, day before yesterday evening, there was a meeting that I was supposed to attend. And then it was supposed to start at 8:30. And then I reached early and then I reached almost 30-40 minutes early. I had misread the time. And then somebody told me that you still have about 40 minutes time. So I thought I'll go back home, take a quick 20-minute power nap, and then I'll come back.
Yeah.
And then I woke up only the next day morning at 8. So, so I think that was crazy.
Man. So what do you do for fun? Like, do you see friends and perhaps do anything that a person in their 30s does?
I do a lot of these. I run. I get a lot of joy when I run. I think people underestimate the high that physical exercise and activity gives. For me, one workout session or one good run is enough of a serotonin charge for about 3-4 days. That's one thing that I do.
Yeah.
Second thing, I love reading. So I carry my Kindle with me everywhere.
And then you highlight the stuff.
Yeah, and I just
ये
like
हमें parliament में use करना है.
Generally, I mean, parliament में use होगा, अगर किसी पे हो गया, but I just like to read a lot.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of joy just reading.
What are you reading right now?
Right now, I'm reading this book called Why Nations Fail.
Yeah. What's the name?
Yeah, it's written by 2 Nobel laureates. It's about how, why the rich countries became rich and why the poor countries have remained poor. It's a very interesting.
Is it something about how they were resource poor, so they invested in trade and then they were resource?
No, essentially the argument is, the thesis is that certain countries became rich because they had political stability and created good institutions that created wealth. So in one line, the message of the book is fix your politics to fix your economics. So this is essentially the book. That's what I'm reading right now.
Yeah.
So I do that, and then I also meet my friends at least once in 10 days. I meet my friends and we just chit chat, talk, chill.
Honestly speaking, and no one answers this very honestly, so I'm going to try and find the highest amount of modicum of honesty you can for this. Do friendships change once you come to power? Because आपके आसपास सब लोग आपसे या तो favor मांग रहे हैं, or they want to be nice to you. People's faces become clearer. People from your whole life.
For me, personally speaking, my close friends, my best friends, today are all my friends from back in the day when I was in school. No one is a friend who is like just entered the club now.
And you're wary of that? People coming to you for like social climbing purposes?
Absolutely. I mean, it's so evident.
Yeah, because you must see 10,000 more people every single day.
Absolutely.
They will come to you with a scheme, with a nice compliment about...
Yes. So all my friends are my friends from the time I was in school, the time I was in college. So these are the friends who I hang out with. The others are all my workplace acquaintances and people with whom I work. Not to say that they are bad people. There are, of course, good people there, great people.
But that's work.
But the people who I count as my friends, they are just a handful, and they are all from before I became an MP.
What's the giveaway for someone who's trying to seek a favor from you? Like, what's the slimiest, sleaziest someone will behave like to try and get into your good books and see, yaar, Tejasvi Surya se agar ek Bangalore ka koi contract or tender mil jayega na, to maza aa jayega.
See, the thing is, there's like a reputation that gets built in, these circles. And that reputation gets built very easily. So in the last 5-6 years, ऐसा reputation build हो गया है कि ऐसे लोग आते ही नहीं मेरे पास. So they know that you cannot go to Tejasvi Surya with any hanky-panky deals. You will not get entertained. And this reputation is so strong, whether it is in Delhi or whether it is in my constituency, that ऐसे shady characters मेरे पास आते ही नहीं. So I think that I have made it very clear.
And what about the older BJP brass, the leaders that you so revere and are in some way your seniors? What have you learned from them about energy management? Like you see someone like Prime Minister Modi, or you someone like Amit Shah. I mean, I can write a book called Insane Burdens Now and Forever.
Yes.
And that will be like their biographies for managing the country. How do they make that happen? What have you learned from them, or perhaps even like leaders within the party about energy management? I'm sure they have no time to themselves.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I have not seen somebody more hardworking than, Modi ji, Amit Shah ji, and people like that. Insane amount of travel, insane amount of work that they do. Sometimes I mean, even now, if after a hard day of work, our Yuva Morcha colleagues, all of us meet at my house or in office, and we're like, भाई आज इतना काम हमने किया और भाई इतना प्रवास आज हो गया, इतना travel हो गया. Then we still say, why, how much our party leaders are doing at their age. I have seen them, people, at the cost of their health. Insulin shot marke, taking flights, 2 flights in a day, going and addressing sabhas. You would have seen, by the end of a campaign, you would have seen Modi ji's and Amit Shah ji's and, our other leaders' voice boxes. They're barely able to talk, and still they're giving speeches at the top of their voices in Jan Sabhas. It's a different level of conviction to a larger cause that can drive you. Give you this
demands physical sacrifice. Like you sort of like have to trade your health for it.
I mean, that's why I keep saying that, they're driven by conviction and nothing else. If you approach it as a 9-to-5 job, you cannot survive here for a week. It must be your life mission.
Many people say that, the weak are crushed in politics. And I think that's a misnomer. I think what they really mean is that the weak-willed are crushed. Have you seen that around yourself where the weak-willed are crushed? Yes. Where people who have good aspirations, have ambitions, perhaps even public office, are brutally swept away by the ambitions of those who will do the cold thing, the rightful thing, the thing that perhaps the other person doesn't have the audacity for.
Well, I think more than, saying it's the cold thing or whatever, whether do you have the stomach? Do you have the stomach to do the right thing, to survive and do, actually make that change?
It's not easy. It's not pleasant, right?
It's not always. Not always.
And like just podcasting alone, meeting so many people has made me hardened in a way I didn't anticipate. I'm no war veteran and I'm no politician. But some of the things I've seen, the people I've met, it's exposed me to a world I did not know. I was a naive child when I first started, and I'm not naive anymore. I can't imagine you, rising star of the BJP, 28 at the age of 28 MP, 6 years later. What part of you has died?
Well, I would say that, in politics, you see the best of people, you also see the worst of people. You see the best behavior and you also see the worst behavior. I think it ripens you as a human being. You learn how to be involved without being attached.
Crazy. I can't fathom that. All right, man. One last question, then I'll let you go because we've run overboard and you've been very kind. If you had to recommend one book, movie, something that has inspired you deeply, except for the one that you just mentioned, what would that be?
I would ask people to read the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. That's been one piece of literature that has tremendously inspired me personally. It gives you an understanding of the pulse of Bharat. So that is,
and he's a very short, pithy writer,
yes,
right?
Very easy to understand, prose. That's Vivekananda's characteristic style of writing. So that would be, one set of, literature that I would request people to read. Then movies, I don't know, if you just want to have fun, watch Friends.
Sure.
So it never fails to make you happy and a great smile. And yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you for your time. Despite the extremely combative nature of the Waqf Bill, I really enjoyed the latter part of our podcast more than that one. But where can people find you, follow you, understand about your work?
My social media, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So people can find me there.
Awesome.
And, yeah, great talking to you.
Yeah, man. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure.